Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with this week's episode of Market Monday on a Tuesday, as usual. And I just want to address my return, I guess. I had a lot of messages asking if I'm okay, why I haven't been doing content in the past couple weeks. And I am going to be back doing content. First of all, there was just a lot of things that required my attention during the COVID-19 breakout that we had to take care of as a business. There was also a lot of things I needed to get shipped out for Mystery and Commander, or for Challenger decks and whatnot. And it was really difficult with like shipping and all the nonsense that was going on with that. So that's where I've been. I also didn't think it was very appropriate to be talking about market-related things on Magic the Gathering. And because I just think the entire format is going to crash hard. I think that we're going to continue to see prices drop all the way into, I don't know, a year and a half. That's just the reality of life here, is where people lose income. Of course, the first thing that's going to go is going to be the collectibles industry. And I'm also expecting to see a huge collapse in the just the paper market as far as local game stores shutting down. I've made the prediction. I think that I highly doubt that 50% of game stores are going to survive after this pandemic is over with. And it's just because usually the people that get into local game store, the industry, are not really that business savvy to begin with. It's more of a hobby for them. I've never really met of many store owners that are making, decent money, let alone making money. And I think this is just going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back for an industry that's already reeling for competition through Amazon, Arena, and whatnot. I am not all doom and gloom, though. I do expect that the paper market will have the opportunity to recover, and probably one of the best recoveries we've ever seen in 2021 if the European and US markets play their cards correctly. I think that they can turn this pandemic into something where they have the opportunity. If you look at past historical events, they have major disruption in markets. Sometimes markets have come out better on the back end of this. Of course, you can't put a value on human life or human suffering, but if you do look at humanity and the history of humanity, it sometimes does take things to shake things up for stagnant economies to really start to grow again. We might be able to see that coming out of 2021 if, of course, there are European and U.S. markets actually do the correct things. And I'm not going to get political here. I'm not going to talk about what those things are. Let's just say that's where I stand with Magic the Gathering. So I felt it a little bit inappropriate to be doing Market Monday videos that are usually about investing or in Magic the Gathering cards, when right now is a really, really weird time to be encouraging people to be buying Magic cards. It hit me as a store owner when I have people in their 20s, teenagers, even above, that have come in and actually bought Magic cards. I'm thinking, yeah, maybe you should be saving that money right now. I mean, I appreciate the business, and I appreciate that you're still wanting to play Magic the Gathering and supporting me, but possibly if you don't, unfortunately, Richard Garfield wrote an article about this, about what he calls Skinnerware, and how he considers that Magic the Gathering has gone into Skinnerware. And what Skinnerware is it's usually, freemium games that have they aren't truly free. If you actually do want to compete, you actually have to spend money, and there is no limit to amount of money you can spend on that hobby. So it really preys on the most vulnerable. So, and I've noticed this with some of my customers too, it tends to be people that don't have money that end up being my best customers, end up wanting to, pimp out their commander decks. I've had people that have invested in Legacy, and I just know them that they don't have the money to be investing in Legacy or, foiling out their commander decks or whatnot. And so it's just been this kind of roller coaster ethically with me of how far do I push this? I mean, where's my, my ethical responsibility to, my customers, to other people, to, do I push them? I don't, we're not going to go too far into this because it's just going to open up a whole can of worms, and I know people won't agree with me and whatnot. I am thankful that the vast majority of my patrons have stuck with me, and we've actually had not the worst month ever here at the store locally, with people, actually wanting board games and cards and whatnot to kind of to play while they're locked down here locally. So anyway, let's get on to the topic hand with Market Monday. Of course, if you want to hear more about these sort of things, maybe we can do a live stream about where I feel the market will be going for Magic as a whole. I think there's some mistakes that are, yeah, let's actually we'll go a little bit further in depth of that. I think the Wizards of the Coast is making a few mistakes as far as Magic the Gathering is concerned. There will be a reprint of mystery booster boxes. I think this is a terrible time for them. I get it that they were one of the best-selling products for local game stores. A lot of times local game stores were able to make quite a bit of money. This is a WPN exclusive, so that's where you've had to get your mystery boxes is from game stores. But I'm feeling this is going towards too much of a Chronicle 2.0, where they're continually printing cards and now reprint a mystery. Commander 2019, Modern Horizons, Iconic Masters, Masters 25, all those still have heavy supply. We even still are able to find Brawl and Gift Editions, Throne of Eldraines, and all of the standard edition booster boxes that are really stagnant right now, meaning they aren't moving, and distributors are just getting overloaded with them. So I just think that Wizards of the Coast needs to step off the printing of sealed product for the foreseeable future, and that's not what we're seeing for them. We're seeing them continue the secret layers. We're seeing them continue the mystery boxes. We're seeing this Ikoria and then like Chandra spellbooks. We're seeing this wave of the same time of this pandemic going on with a more product. Not only more product, this is this set is going to have more actual products you can buy than any other set. If you actually include the Japanese collector's editions, the commanders, the regular draft booster boxes, the Japanese draft booster boxes, and whatnot. All of this, I think, is just unprecedented before. This is the biggest set that have ever been printed as far as diversity of products are concerned. And I think this is just a very, very tough timing for these sort of things. So I would like Wizards of the Coast to kind of lay off a little bit, because I think it's going to add even more misery to game stores not being able to sell the products at a reasonable profit margin. Because what I'm expecting this to happen is with game stores going out of business and the demand decreasing, but Wizards that have still printed to a demand that they expected to grow, I think this is going to have just a domino effect and a chain reaction on just Magic as a whole, from sealed to singles, both of those losing a huge amount of value. Now, I have read some articles about Magic Gathering losing about 35% as a whole. There have been people pointing fingers that mystery boosters that's mainly where it's coming from, is the reprints from mystery booster boxes, especially foils, and that's reflected there. But there have been many other indicators, like cards that weren't reprinted from reserve list or legacy cards, that have also had significant losses, anywhere from 20% to 35% that we've seen, and upwards of the cards that have been reprinted in mystery booster boxes. So again, we are starting to see that effect. I think it's actually larger than what you would notice, because as there are less buyers, there are also less sellers. There are many vendors that have turned off their online vending because of shipping just very, very tough, especially if you're in the East Coast. There are warehouses that have been closed, and game stores that usually operate that are closed as well and are not even operating their online end of the spectrum. And then even TCG Player Direct, for example, has shut down their warehouse. So if you've been using that website, you've been getting from just average sellers. So I think that not only is there a lack of buyers, but there's a lack of people that are posting cards online. And I think when the inventories come back online, it's going to add, like I said, even more of a chain reaction or a domino effect, with prices continuing to go down month by month, week by week. It won't be all dire, though. I still think that we're in a better position from the 2008 crash. That was a time when Magic did get hit pretty hard. Everything got hit pretty hard, and it did rebound after that. And again, if we play our cards right, and societal speaking, I think that we could come back to a nice, robust market in not only all the economies, but the economy of Magic the Gathering singled and sealed product. There still is that push, though, with Wizards of the Coast. We found some information leaked that Wizards of the Coast is planning to roll out a direct-to-consumer, much like sealed product. So they'll be selling bundles and booster boxes and collector's edition directly to consumers, kind of circumnavigating the distributors and even we're thinking they might be cutting their on Amazon, kind of how selling through Amazon. But that's yet to see. Again, it's still on the rumor mill. And again, it will take a long time for me to get into all these sort of stuff. So anyway, I know you've come here for the title at hand, whatever I'm going to title this video. We're going to be talking about the Commander 2020 deck list. Now, I'm going to make a very controversial opinion about Commander 2020, also known as the Ikoria Commanders. I don't like them. And now you can see here there is a ton of value in these decks. This one sporting $241, this one $215, this one $273, $212, and $219. So you're asking, wow, Kevin, why don't you think these are good value? Let's go back to the supply chain. If you actually go over to TCG Player on some of these cards that are going, look at this Soul Ring for $20. That is absolutely not going to be reflective of what a Soul Ring is going to be priced at. The Soul Ring's going to go down to $2.50 to $3 like it always does when it gets reprinted. This is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's of Arcane Signet, in my opinion. Well, was in the Brawls, but Brawls were reprinted multiple times. That Arcane Signet isn't that uncommon anymore. It's going to be very similar to Soul Ring, so I think that the max amount that Arcane Signet is going to be worth long term is going to be 2 to 3, and these are going to continue to be printed in all of the commander sets going forward. Battle for Zendikar, they are going to be replacing Planeswalker decks with commander decks as well, but these ones are supposed to be more intro level commander decks, but I highly suspect that Arcane Signets are going to be in those particular commander decks. Now, I had an entire rant over at my third channel, Gone Rogue Games, today. I don't know if this video is going to come out first or the Gone Rogue Games video is going to come out first, about why I stopped playing commander, and I think that it's kind of relevant at hand of talking about. You can see why I feel certain ways. Go ahead and check that video out at my Gone Rogue Game channels. I'll have the link in the description below about an entire rant about commander and how I'm getting out of the format. However, just to give a little bit of TLDR for that, is I've never really liked the commander products because it does force Wizards to continue to print in this particular fashion. People weren't very happy with 2019 with not having good reprints, especially when Gavin Verhey promised there would be better reprints, and then they basically show a Seedborn Muse, and that was that. And Commander 2019 was supposed to sell based upon the new cards out of Commander 2018. And people called that set lackluster because they just didn't think there was very powerful cards in it. When you had cards like Crick, as well as Dockside Extortionist, which I think are some of the most powerful commander cards ever printed for the commander, that is kind of set the precedent of going forward. The Magic continues to have to up themselves with each commander, 2020, 2021, and whatnot, especially if they are not going to be including reprints. So that is the very awkward thing about Commander, is this particular set, they tended to focus on that as well, on cards that are going to be we need to switch over to paper. That's why it's so messed up with Soul Ring. They are going to be focusing on reprints are on new cards rather than reprint cards. And I think that is a mistake because there's no way these new cards, what ends up happening is that since this is a print to demand, if there are cards that are brand new, they have a harder time holding value. And if this is I think these sell for $45 each a piece. I think that's the going price for the commander decks. That all the value of the decks will come down to more like around $35, because you got to think that people getting these for half of what distributors are selling it for. I think I can get these for $115, so it ends up being about $130 shipped if you're a patron of mine to get a full set of commander decks. And so all of the prices so that's 5 decks, you divide that by 125, that's $25 a deck. If people are able to get that, mass box openers are able to pull a profit at about 35 after the fees. And if you want to do some marketing and if people adding on to carts and you actually break even on them, that's really at where you just have to get the commander decks down to is about $30 of value. So I'm thinking of all the brand new printed cards that we don't know how popular they're going to be are all going to have to go down to about $35 a box. So when you have cards that are $20 right now that are brand new cards, there are absolutely no way, no how that these are going to be able to hold their value. Now, talking to commander players, they are suggesting that these cards are very, very good and that every deck is going to be wanting to run them, like the Deadly Rollick here, which is a 4-mana spell. If you control your commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost and exile a creature. So these free spells that Wizards is trying to add, these more defensive free spells to stop shenanigans, especially like Voltron based strategies, or just where there's, the threats have gotten out of control. Now we need answers. That is kind of the theme of these commanders, these free spells that actually do answer stuff. So that is why a lot of people are liking these, is because I've had many conversations with many different people that think that Deadly Rollick alone is going to hold the price tag of the commander deck, and it's going to be very similar to the Teferi's protection based card that was able to recover quite quickly. So we'll keep our eye on this commander set going forward. However, I would like to see the focal point more more on the mana base, which is just abysmal for these commander decks, rather than trying to stick the money in the newly printed cards, or throwing in some reprints that were desperately needed that also are known quantities, like Ristic Studies, for example, that you could throw in this, and then it's going to be a card that is going to be sought after and going to potentially be able to hold its value for long term. So that's kind of the good news and the bad news of looking at both sides of the issue. I particularly am on side B, where mana base and reprint should be more the focal point, but I can definitely see the Teferi's Protection or the Brea, the Atraxa type appeal to these new commander products. However, I think that they failed more than they've got those right. With new cards holding value. So let's just look at these though. All of these right now are going for about $20. And I think that these are the ones that are going to hold the value long term. If they ever do go down lower than this card in particular, this Deadly Rollick goes down below like $10, I think it might be a good time to pick it up. Now, again, you have to take everything I say with these market videos. I'm going to be reviving my Rogue Market channel as well with a grain of salt, because these are all based upon a economy and a market that isn't in a free fall. So when I talk about these sort of things, you got to assume that we're talking about just regular old day where Magic is still either stagnant or growing, and you can expect supply to eventually be outstretched by demand and cards then to be going up. I would put, maybe instead of giving these, price, I'll give these kind of ratings. Deadly Rollick, I definitely give a rating of an A. It could be the Teferi Protection out of this particular deck that is able to go up long term. But if we focus back on the reprints, that's where this gets very, very dismal. I looked at this when 3 of these were spoiled. The most expensive reprint was a Fluctuator, which is a low supply card that was going to get crushed. The most stable card would be either Karametra or Locust God, and there were only 3 cards at the time period that were over $10 as far as reprints are concerned. So this is going to be another set that is just not going to have the reprints here that are going to be able to push this set long term. If we look here again, it doesn't look like there's much as well in the form of reprints. We have a bunch of these new cards, all of them having a high price tag, which I also, reiterating back to what I was saying about the lack of sellers, I think this is what we're seeing as well. That people just aren't putting them up on TCG Player, which is where Goldfish gets its data from. The card kingdoms aren't pre-selling them as fast as they usually do, where the race to the bottom occurs, and we have these high price tags. If you want to take a gamble, if you think that people are out there that will pay these prices, this would be a great time to get in on a service like mine on Patreon, where you can get a full playset of these commanders for about, what I say, 130 shipped for these, because you can make your money back on just selling a couple of these if you think that they will sell in this climate. So most of these cards are around the 20. It looks like that's where the seller's putting these at, are going to be around the 20. So some of these other reprinted cards, though, I don't think have the ability to hold long term. Like the Dredge, the Mire, each opponent choose a creature card in their graveyard, put those cards on the battlefield under your control. It's very similar to other cards that put all creatures under your control, and I think these are more situational than the Deadly Rollick, where this one is going to be able to hold its value. This one's probably going to be down to that $2-3, $1 mark. The low end of after commander cards that do have some popularity get reprinted because the supply is still quite high of them. All right, so let's look at this mana base of what I'm talking about here. This is what just really irks me, where they choose cards like Sunken Hollow and cards like Llanowar Waste that have been reprinted over and over and over again, when I think the opportunity to put even in like a Drowned Catacombs that sees Pioneer play, or a Fetchland or a Shockland, would be something that I think would be very advantageous to these commander decks, and would bring the price down of those particular cards. Those are still cards that are holding back formats like Pioneer and even Commander. I mean, Commander decks need to actually pick those up for their decks. To say that Shocklands are not used in Commander at the same rate of Sunken Hollow, or the Llanowar Waste, is just being very, very disingenuous. And I think that Wizard of the Coast, where they refuse to acknowledge the secondary market, that's their reasoning for putting these particular cards in these sets is, oh, look, it already has so much value from these. Let's not make this put even more value. We want to save that equity for another day. And I don't know. I just think it's pretty ridiculous there. Otherwise, what are the other reprints in here? I see a Predator Ooze. Didn't this one get a reprint, though? That has a lower price one. Commander 20, so it just has to have the Dark Ascension. Cards like this, of course, will get crushed as they're going to get hit with the value the most. There are a bunch of cards, too, that I noticed in here that were just got a recent reprint from the mystery boxes too that are going to definitely bring its price even down further. Some ones like Fine Finality too that just make you shake your head because these had multiple printings in standard. They had, this one was in the Challenger decks from the year before, and then they include it over something else. In this particular one, it's just a budget rare that won't cost any equity to them, and I think that's kind of nonsense with Wizards of the Coast. I do think they should strive for a price tag, but when they go after a particular card based upon its low and then reprint it, it's always made me scratch my head because it's one of the things about like Dark Ascension, or not Dark Ascension, Dragon's Maze, where Dragon's Maze has never been able to accrue value because Wizards like, oh, this $2 card's perfect to put in our commander set. So they print it, and then it's low, and then like, oh, this is perfect to put in this other supplemental product because it's a $2 card. And whereas the demand's actually there for the card, they actually skip over like a lower demand card that has a higher price tag because their skewed, vision of where they want their equity to come from. I don't know. I think they really need to hire someone that's good with secondary market and analysis of cards to really, pound in Wizards' heads of how cards gain value. And if you keep reprinting the same cards, that's going to take away from their equity long term. So we look at this one as well. You can see very similar things with most of these cards coming out around, all the brand new cards being around, 10 and above, a bunch of them being 20. There has to be something that gives. We see the Soul Ring and Arcane Signet again in this particular one. I think that those cards are going to get crushed. This one does have the staples of like Commander Sphere, Arcane Signet, Swift of Boots. We see those every year in Commander. Dedbridge Chant, there you go. There's another one. Gets another reprint. They just can't help themselves but reprint these cards over and over and over that have had multiple reprints in every supplemental products and are not even that old of cards in the scope of things. Let's look at the mana base here. We have a brand new card that holds the value. We have a Gavany Township and a Canopy Vista. Vista is lucky that Pioneer took off to actually give some value to this particular card. But cards like these are going to be absolutely crushed. Even going for cards, Planeswalkers that are not old in the scope of things. And again, cards that have been very, very recently reprinted in the mystery box. Look at Soul Innistrad. Yikes. That's a big yikes here. If we go over to the mana base of the Timeless Wisdom, you can kind of see the same thing here. They went for like cards like the Shivan Reef over a Shockland here. We do have Exotic Growth though, which is a decent little reprint. But even cards like Prairie Stream that are worth basically nothing now because of the inclusions of this was another one that was this a Challenger? No, Challenger didn't exist. Why is Prairie Stream? Oh, we need to go over to paper. Whoops, let's look at paper here. So if we actually go over to paper. Actually Exotic Orchard did have a reprint not too long ago, so that's why it's so cheap. And we do have just the Sky Cloud Expanse. I guess this one hasn't been reprinted for a while. Is this the only printing? Wow, that one has dodged some Commander ones. So this one actually was a good addition from Commander. But yeah, Prairie Stream cards like this, I think are just definitely make you scratch your head of why these Irrigated Farmland Prairie Stream were included over, higher demand mana bases that are going to be needed to be upgraded anyway. Go over to Arcane Maelstrom. You can see the exact same thing here with the $20 price tag of the. This is just lack of sellers in my opinion. They're putting these at 10, and so competition has undercut them to 9. So you should see these ones definitely start to go down lower and lower. So whatever the first seller, they put up for 20, 10, 10, and someone has undercut them for, the market's undercut to 9 by 2 cents here, 3 cents here. And probably this one was 14 and it's been cut down. 13 has been cut down. So we just don't have a good a gauge of where these cards are going to settle right now. Again, though, that these are, speaking to many Commander players, these are highly sought after cards, and apparently Wizards did do good on making creatures bigger threats in these particular Commander decks, as well as answers, better answers to like artifacts and spells that have dominated the format for a while. So let's look at the last deck here. Look at the mana base of and the reprints. We had again Shared Animosity that's had multiple reprintings in not too long of a time period. They just keep going after those same cards over and over. Outpost Siege, that card's been reprinted so many times. And we go over to the mana base. This one does have the Path of Ancestry, as well as nothing else. So like Unclaimed Territory and Smoldering Marsh as the cards to go in here. Anyway, that's kind of the topic I have hand with Commander. That's why I'm not a fan of these particular Commander decks. I'd rather have them focus on reprints that can hold value long term. I didn't see any reprints from this one either. This was one of the newer ones. What is the most? Is it going to be is that going to be the most expensive card? Was the land, like the Keswick Wolf Run, as a reprint. This new card, Signet in this particular one. Yeah, just lack of reprints for these cards, and bad mana base. So it looks like Fluctuator is the most expensive reprint. Anyway, let me know your comments in the comment section below what you think of this Commander set. Again, keep your eye on these cards. For whatever reason, if you can make a buck out of these, this might be a good time to break these down and sell these cards if they do hold their high price. In my opinion, they can't, though. These all have to come down to about that $30, $35 mark. They can't keep hitting this, 220, 212. I think these actually came out higher than even Commander 2019 did. There are some cards out of that set that were going crazy, though, like $40 cards right off the bat that got crushed. But it does seem that sellers have started the baseline at 20 for these. Anyway, this is all I have for this week. We'll continue to do these hopefully on Mondays. And if not, we'll do it usually on Market Tuesdays on a Monday, or Market Mondays on a Tuesday, as we've done in the past. This has been Kevin with the Rogue Deck Builder. Definitely come and check out the other topic that's me over on the Rogue Market channel, as well as you can see my kind of rant about Commander and these particular Commander decks over at the Gone Rogue Games channel. We'll have more content. We'll be back in the string of things. Again, it's been crazy here. It's been crazy around the world. And again, I didn't think it was very appropriate to be really talking about finance at this time in line where people are losing their jobs and losing their savings, and game stores going out of business and whatnot. Hope you enjoyed this video. Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.